The Buddha once said that the mind is what drives our actions, and every deed originates there. True practice isn't about outward rituals, it's about transforming what's inside our hearts. According to the old teachings, there was once a devoted follower who chanted day and night without fail. One day he went before the Buddha and asked, "Teacher, I recite these words every single day, yet I haven't awakened. Why not?" Rather than answering directly, the Buddha told him a story about a fisherman who lived by a great river. This fisherman grew old casting his heavy net, just as his father and grandfather did before him. Over time, he started to fear the negative consequences of catching fish. So he began reciting the Buddha's name each day, hoping for protection and release from his worries. One day a wandering monk passed by and noticed how the fisherman would say, "I pay homage to the Buddha. Please forgive my misdeeds," each time he tossed out his net. Then when he hauled the fish in, he'd say, "I pay homage to the Buddha. May you all find liberation soon." Curious, the monk asked, "Why do you chant the Buddha's name while you continue to catch fish?" The fisherman set down his net, sighed, and said, "I know this work brings harm, but it's the livelihood passed down through my family, and I have no other skills. At the very least, I thought chanting might lessen the wrongdoing." The monk nodded and asked him if he had noticed any change in himself after all this time chanting. The fisherman shook his head and admitted that he still felt uneasy and trapped by his circumstances. Then the monk pointed to the net in his hands and asked how often it was replaced. The fisherman explained that it got changed about once a year because the net would wear out and tear. The monk said, "Each day you use that net, it eventually breaks. But if you keep chanting without transforming your heart, how can the inner knots of clinging and ignorance ever break?" Hearing this, the fisherman grew thoughtful and asked, "What does it mean to work on my mind?" Instead of replying right away, the monk asked, "Why do you need a net to catch fish?" The fisherman said, "Without a net, how would I catch anything?" The monk explained, "Your worries are like the fish, and your attachments are like the net. If you keep using your net of attachments to chase after worries, how can you ever find freedom?" That moment lit up something inside the fisherman. The monk went on to say that developing the mind is more important than just chanting, because the mind is the source of everything. A net's size doesn't matter as much as understanding what a net really is. The fisherman became so absorbed in the monk's words that he set his net aside. Then the monk explained there are different levels to working on the mind. First, we need to recognize our own mind. This is the starting point, seeing our thoughts and feelings as they are. Just as a net needs regular checking for tears, our mind needs constant observation. If we don't look at the true nature of our thoughts, we can't tell which come from greed, anger, or delusion, and which arise from clarity and kindness. Next, we learn to let go of attachments. Practice isn't about forcing anything. It's about releasing our tight grip on ideas, worries, and habits that hold us back. Each time you cast your net, it shows an attachment, maybe to your livelihood or your desperation. Only when we loosen these attachments does the mind become peaceful and free. Then comes the work of purifying the mind, which takes continual effort. Just as a net gathers dirt and debris over time, our hearts collect unhelpful emotions and mistaken beliefs. We need to clear those out so our mind can regain its natural clarity. This doesn't happen in a single moment. It's an ongoing process of self-reflection. Purifying also means resolving strong emotions like anger or jealousy. We shouldn't let them linger. Instead, we learn to gently let them pass. Finally, we arrive at a point where we see the true nature of the mind, who we really are beneath all the noise. Spiritual practice is the journey of persistent self-awareness and letting go until our deepest self is revealed. When surface-level frustrations no longer bind us, the mind returns to its original state of stillness, and the truth shines through effortlessly. The fisherman asked, "What's the difference between chanting words and developing the mind?" The monk smiled and explained that chanting is an external practice. Repeating phrases can have some benefit, but it doesn't necessarily get to the root of our problems. Working on the mind, however, is an internal practice. It's like putting down the net altogether, no longer relying on external props to find peace. This inner shift leads us back to our most authentic self, where we discover genuine freedom and calm. The fisherman wondered aloud what to pay attention to when working on his mind. The monk then described 4 key points. First is awareness. Keep an eye on your mental state so you notice every passing thought, just like checking every gap in the net. When we're aware, we won't be dragged around by thoughts that appear out of nowhere. Second is letting go. Release your grasp on external circumstances, on gains and losses, praise and blame. It's like putting the net aside so you're no longer bound by its shape. Letting go doesn't mean neglecting responsibilities. It means freeing your heart from needless worries. Third is purification, removing greed, anger, and confusion, as well as unresolved grudges and flawed perspectives. You rinse the mind clean the same way you'd wash a net, clearing away the buildup of debris. Fourth is settling in the present moment, not drifting into past regrets or future anxieties, but resting calmly here and now. This is not a passive state. It's a peaceful, grounded presence where you aren't caught in what has already happened or in what hasn't happened yet. The monk emphasized that real growth comes from four major shifts: turning away from external seeking and looking within, moving from attachment to release, shifting from forced effort to natural openness, and transforming random, scattered thoughts into clear understanding. The fisherman asked, "What is the most fundamental path of practice?" The monk replied that true practice is staying aware, letting things be, and returning to your own heart. Awareness means knowing what you're thinking, doing, and feeling at any moment. Letting things be means not forcing outcomes, not obsessing over right or wrong, and staying open and flexible. Returning to the heart means seeing its pure, untroubled essence and dwelling in that peace. The monk added that training the mind has four benefits. First, when the mind is calm, troubles fall away on their own. Second, as the mind grows clear, wisdom naturally arises and truth becomes evident. Third, our past misdeeds begin to dissolve because a clear mind doesn't cling to old burdens. Last, we develop goodness that brings positive results in the future because the more clarity and compassion we foster, the greater our blessings in days to come. Deeply moved, the fisherman asked how to begin. The monk said there are four steps. First is noticing. Be mindful of every thought and emotion. Second is accepting. Don't fight or judge your inner state, but welcome it as it is. Third is releasing. Don't hold on to any experience or craving. Let them pass without clinging. Fourth is settling in calm awareness. Rest in your heart's natural serenity and recognize its true face. Real practice is about returning to the simple and natural state. The monk concluded by saying that working on the mind must be gradual, steady, and genuine, and it's something we integrate into daily life, not separate from it. From that day on, the fisherman still had to cast his net to earn a living, but he paid more attention to his heart and stopped reciting out of blind habit. Over time, he grew more at ease and less attached to fishing. Eventually, he even found a different way to make a living and let go of the net for good. This story illustrates that real transformation isn't in the outward ritual of chanting, it's in the inward shift of the heart. Reciting words can be helpful, but true awakening comes from seeing our minds clearly and returning to that innate stillness. Only then do we find genuine freedom from life's struggles. This is why it's often said that reciting formulas by themselves cannot surpass the power of actual inner work. Without touching the core of our being, we can't resolve life's deeper issues. Only by developing the mind can we genuinely free ourselves and discover real peace.